The spaceship Meridian moved slowly through the dark space around the Kepler 442 star system. Captain Lisa Grant stood at the big window and looked out at the stars. She had been in space for 10 years, but what she saw today made her heart beat fast with excitement. A huge stone tower floated in the empty space between two dead planets. The tower was made of some kind of crystal that glowed with blue light from inside. It was bigger than any building on Earth. Lisa had never seen anything like it in all her years of space travel. "Captain, we are getting close to the object," said Commander Jake Murphy. He was the military officer on the ship. Jake was a big man with short brown hair and serious eyes. He always stayed calm, even when strange things happened. Lisa nodded and pressed a button on her chair. All hands. "This is the captain. We have found something amazing. Everyone report to your stations." The ship had 50 people on it. Half were humans from Earth, and half were aliens called Zephyrians. The Zephyrians looked like tall, thin humans, but their heads were longer and they had pale blue skin. They were very smart and had taught humans how to travel between stars. Dr. Kethvar was the lead scientist from the Zephyrian people. He came to the bridge and stood next to Lisa. His long fingers touched the computer screen as he studied the readings. "This structure is very old," Dr. Kethvar said in his quiet voice. "Our scans show it has been here for millions of years, but it is still working. It is sending out signals toward the center of our galaxy." Lisa looked at the tower again. It was covered with strange marks and symbols from top to bottom. The symbols seemed to glow brighter than the rest of the crystal. They made patterns that looked almost like they meant something important. "Can you read those symbols?" Lisa asked. Dr. Kethvar shook his head slowly. "No, Captain. These symbols are not like anything in our records. They do not match any known language from our part of space. But they are clearly made by intelligent beings. Someone built this tower to send a message." Lieutenant Amy Collins was working at the communications station. She was young, maybe 25 years old, with red hair and green eyes. She looked up from her computer and said, "Captain, the signals are getting stronger as we get closer. Whatever this thing is trying to say, it really wants someone to hear it." Jake walked over to the science station where 3 Zephyrian scientists were working. They had machines that could see inside the tower without touching it. The machines showed that the tower was hollow inside, with many rooms and passages. "The material is unknown to us," said one of the Zephyrian scientists. "It is stronger than anything we have ever found. Our tools cannot cut it or break it. Whoever built this had technology we do not understand." Lisa felt excited and worried at the same time. Finding something this old and mysterious was the dream of every explorer. But it could also be dangerous. Ancient alien technology might have traps or weapons that could hurt her crew. "Dr. Kethvar, how long do you think it will take to figure out what those symbols mean?" she asked. The Zephyrian doctor looked at the tower for a long time before answering, "It is hard to say, Captain. My people have studied ancient languages for hundreds of years. We have computers that can try millions of different combinations in just a few minutes, but these symbols are very complex. They seem to follow rules, but the rules are not clear to us." Amy turned around in her chair. "Captain, I have been looking at the symbol patterns while listening to you talk. They remind me of something, but I cannot remember what it is." Lisa walked over to Amy's station. On the screen was a close-up picture of part of the tower. The symbols were arranged in neat rows and columns. Some areas had no symbols at all, just empty black spaces. Other areas were filled with symbols that seemed to connect to each other. "It does look like some kind of pattern," Lisa agreed. "Maybe like a code or puzzle." Dr. Kethvar joined them at Amy's station. He studied the screen with his large, intelligent eyes. "Yes, it is definitely a puzzle of some kind. But what type of puzzle, and how do we solve it?" Jake came over too. He was not a scientist, but he had good instincts about things. "Maybe it is a test," he said. "If I wanted to leave a message for other smart beings to find, I might make it hard to read. That way, only people smart enough to solve the puzzle would get the message." "That makes sense," Lisa said. But if it is a test, what happens if we get the answer wrong? Nobody had a good answer for that question. They all looked back at the tower floating in space. It seemed peaceful now, just glowing quietly and sending out its mysterious signals. But Lisa knew that ancient alien technology could be very dangerous. Dr. Kethvar, start working on those symbols, she ordered. Use all your best computers and scientists. I want to know what this thing is trying to tell us. Yes, Captain. My team will begin right away. We will work day and night until we solve this puzzle. As the meridian moved closer to the ancient tower, Lisa felt like they were about to make the most important discovery in human history. She just hoped they would live long enough to understand what they had found. 3 weeks had passed since the meridian found the ancient tower. Dr. Kethvar had not slept much during that time. His team of Zephyrian scientists worked around the clock, but they were no closer to solving the symbol puzzle than when they started. The Zephyrian computers were the best in the galaxy. They could calculate the path of every star in a solar system or predict weather patterns on a planet for the next 100 years. But the symbols on the tower made no sense to them. Dr. Kethvar sat in the science lab, staring at the screens that showed the symbols. His long fingers moved across the keyboard as he tried another approach. This time, he was testing if the symbols represented numbers in some unknown math system. Computer, run pattern analysis sequence 47, he said. The computer hummed for several minutes, then displayed its results. No mathematical correlation found. Pattern does not match known numerical systems. Dr. Kethvar felt frustrated. His people had been exploring space for thousands of years. They had met dozens of alien races and learned their languages. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy for being able to solve any puzzle or decode any message. But this tower was beating them. Lieutenant Amy Collins walked into the lab carrying a cup of coffee. She did this every morning before starting her shift. Amy liked to check on the scientists and see how their work was going. Any progress today, Doctor? She asked. Dr. Kethvar looked up from his screen. His pale blue face showed his tiredness. No, Lieutenant Collins. We have tried every method we know. We have tested if the symbols represent sounds, pictures, numbers, or scientific formulas. Nothing works. Amy looked at the screen showing the tower symbols. She had seen these images many times over the past 3 weeks, but today something seemed different. Maybe it was because she was tired, or maybe the morning light from the lab windows made the patterns look new. What if you are thinking about this wrong? Amy asked. Dr. Kethvar tilted his long head. What do you mean? Well, you are treating each symbol like it stands alone. But look at how they are arranged. Some symbols appear many times, but others appear only once. And see these empty black spaces between groups of symbols? Dr. Kethvar had noticed the empty spaces before, but his team thought they were just decoration. Yes, we see the spaces. We believe they separate different sections of the message. Amy nodded and took a sip of her coffee. Maybe, but what if the empty spaces are part of the puzzle itself? What if they mean something important? Before Dr. Kethvar could answer, Captain Lisa Grant walked into the lab. She looked worried. Doctor, I need to know how much longer this is going to take. We have been here 3 weeks, and Earth Command is asking questions. Dr. Kethvar stood up from his chair. He was much taller than both humans. Captain, I am sorry. This puzzle is harder than anything my people have ever seen. We have used 17 different analysis methods. We have tested over 2 million possible combinations. Nothing gives us an answer that makes sense. Lisa could see that the Zephyrian scientist was upset. His people took great pride in their intelligence. Being unable to solve this puzzle was hurting his confidence. What about the other Zephyrian ships in this area? Lisa asked. Can they help? I have already contacted them, Dr. Kethvar replied. The science vessel Quantum Dream sent their best code-breaking team. The exploration ship Starseeker shared their linguistic databases. Even the military cruiser Iron Fist offered to help. With their battle computers, none of them have had any success. Amy was still looking at the symbol patterns on the screen. Something about them kept bothering her, like when you know a word but cannot remember it. The way the symbols were grouped together reminded her of something from Earth, but she could not figure out what. Commander Jake Murphy entered the lab. He had been talking to the other human crew members about the situation. Captain, the crew is getting restless. Some of them think we should give up and head home. Others want to try boarding the tower and looking inside. Lisa shook her head. Too dangerous. We do not know what kind of defenses that thing might have. Dr. Kethvar, show me your latest analysis. Dr. Kethvar turned to his largest computer screen. It showed a complex diagram with thousands of lines connecting different symbols. This is our most advanced approach. We are trying to map relationships between symbols based on their position and frequency. The computer has been working on this for 5 days. And? Lisa asked. And it tells us that the symbols follow rules, but we cannot determine what those rules are. It is like trying to play a game without knowing how the game works. Amy finished her coffee and was about to leave when something clicked in her mind. She stopped walking and stared at the screen again. The groups of symbols, the empty black spaces, the way some symbols appeared multiple times while others appeared only once. Oh my God, she said quietly. Dr. Kethvar looked at her with surprise. What is it, Lieutenant? Amy walked closer to the screen. Her heart was beating fast with excitement. Doctor, what if this is not a language at all? What if it is a puzzle? From Earth? A puzzle from Earth? Dr. Kethvar asked. What kind of puzzle? Amy smiled for the first time in weeks. A crossword puzzle. Look at the pattern. Black squares separating groups of letters. Some words going across, others going down. Words that share letters where they cross each other. Lisa, Jake, and Dr. Kethvar all stared at the screen with new eyes. Now that Amy had pointed it out, they could see what she meant. The arrangement did look like the crossword puzzles that appeared in Earth newspapers and magazines. Dr. Kethvar was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, You think an ancient alien civilization used the same puzzle format as your people on Earth? Amy nodded. Why not? If you want to test intelligence, you need a puzzle that requires both knowledge and logic. Crosswords are perfect. For that, you need to know facts, but you also need to figure out how the answers fit together. Jake laughed. So you are telling me that we have spent 3 weeks using the most advanced computers in the galaxy to solve what might be an alien crossword puzzle? That is exactly what I am telling you, Amy replied. Dr. Kethvar looked embarrassed. His people had overlooked something so simple that humans did for fun, but he was also excited. If Amy was right, they finally had a way forward. Lieutenant Collins, he said formally, would you be willing to work with my team? We need to learn about these crossword puzzles. Amy Collins felt nervous as she walked back into the science lab an hour later. She had gone to her room to get her tablet computer and think about her crossword idea. Now she had to explain to some of the smartest aliens in the galaxy how Earth puzzle games worked. Dr. Kethvar was waiting for her with 5 other Zephyrian scientists. They all looked tired and frustrated from weeks of failed attempts. Amy could see doubt in their large eyes. They were probably thinking that a simple human could not solve what their advanced minds could not. Lieutenant Collins, Dr. Kethvar said politely, please show us these crossword puzzles. Amy turned on her tablet and opened the crossword app she used every morning. The screen showed a grid of white and black squares. Some of the white squares had letters in them, and others were empty. This is a crossword puzzle from yesterday's game, Amy explained. See how the black squares separate groups of letters? Each group of white squares makes a word. Some words go across from left to right, and other words go down from top to bottom. The Zephyrian scientists leaned closer to look at the small screen. Dr. Kethvar pointed at where 2 words crossed each other. These words share a letter at this point? Exactly, Amy said. That is what makes crossword puzzles challenging. You have to find words that fit the pattern and also share the right letters where they cross. Dr. Kethvar pulled up the image of the tower symbols on his large computer screen. But Lieutenant, these symbols are not letters from any alphabet we know. Amy looked at both screens, comparing the crossword puzzle to the tower symbols. You are right. But what if each symbol represents a letter or sound in the alien language? The pattern is the same. Look. She pointed to the tower image. Here you have groups of symbols separated by empty black spaces, just like crossword puzzles. Some symbol groups are short, others are long, and see where the groups cross each other? They share the same symbol at those points. One of the younger Zephyrian scientists named Veltor spoke up. But how do we know what each symbol means if we do not know their language? Amy smiled. That is where crossword solving gets clever. You use clues and logic. In Earth crosswords, each word has a clue that gives you a hint about the answer. We need to find the clues for this alien crossword. Captain Lisa Grant and Commander Jake Murphy walked into the lab. Lisa had heard about Amy's crossword theory and wanted to see it for herself. Amy, show the captain what you found, Dr. HFY said. Amy explained her theory again, pointing out the similarities between the tower symbols and crossword puzzles. Lisa studied both images carefully. This actually makes sense, Lisa said. If an ancient alien race wanted to leave a message that only intelligent species could read, a puzzle would be perfect. It tests both knowledge and problem-solving skills. Jake looked at the tower image. But where are the clues? In Earth crosswords, the clues are written separately from the puzzle. Dr. HFY had been thinking about this problem. Perhaps the clues are built into the puzzle itself. Many ancient civilizations used pictures or mathematical symbols that any advanced species should recognize. Amy nodded excitedly. Yes, that could work. Look at this symbol here. She pointed to a symbol that appeared several times in the tower image. It looks like it might represent a number or a scientific concept. Veltor ran the symbol through the computer's analysis program. This symbol appears 14 times in the puzzle. If it represents the same concept each time, that gives us a starting point. Dr. HFY was beginning to feel hopeful for the first time in weeks. Lieutenant Collins, what tools do humans use to solve these crossword puzzles? Amy held up her tablet. Mostly just our brains, but there are computer programs that can help. This app I use has a database of common words and can suggest answers based on the letters you already have. A database of words, Dr. HFY repeated thoughtfully. We have databases of every known language in the galaxy, but they would not help with an unknown alien language. Amy looked at the tower image again. Something was bothering her about Dr. HFY's statement. Wait a minute. What if it is not completely unknown? What if the aliens used universal concepts that any smart species would know? What do you mean? Lisa asked. Amy pointed to different parts of the tower image. Look at these symbol patterns. Some are very short, just one or two symbols. Others are much longer. In crosswords, short words are often common things like the, or, and, or simple concepts. What if the aliens used universal scientific or mathematical terms? Dr. HFY's eyes grew wide with understanding. Scientific constants, mathematical relationships, physical laws. These would be the same for any species that achieves space travel. Veltor was already pulling up files on his computer. We have complete databases of universal scientific knowledge. If the aliens use concepts like gravity, light speed, or atomic structure, we should be able to recognize them. Jake was getting excited too. So you are saying the aliens made a crossword puzzle using science and math as the clues? It is possible, Amy said. And if that is true, then we can solve it the same way we solve Earth crosswords. We start with the answers we are sure about and use those to figure out the harder ones. Lisa looked around the lab at the mix of human and alien faces. Everyone seemed energized by this new approach. How long do you think this will take? Amy looked at her tablet and then at the complex symbol grid on the tower. If this really is a crossword puzzle, and if we can identify some of the basic clues, then maybe a few hours to get started. Maybe a day or two to solve the whole thing. Dr. HFY made a decision. Lieutenant Collins, I want you to work directly with my team. Teach us everything you know about solving crossword puzzles. We will teach you about universal scientific concepts. Together we might be able to crack this puzzle. Amy felt both honored and scared. The most advanced scientists in the galaxy were asking for her help. A week ago, she was just a communications officer who did crossword puzzles while drinking her morning coffee. Now she might be the key to solving the greatest mystery in galactic history. I will do my best, she said. But I have one request. What is it? Dr. Kethvar asked. Amy held up her tablet. Can I use my crossword app to help? It has pattern recognition software that might be useful. Dr. Kethvar looked confused. You want to solve an ancient alien mystery using a game program from your home planet? Amy grinned. Sometimes the best tools are the simplest ones. Amy Collins sat at the main computer station with her tablet next to the keyboard. Dr. Kethvar and his team had spent 2 hours setting up their equipment to work with her crossword app. It was strange to see advanced alien technology connected to a simple game program from Earth. Are you ready, Lieutenant Collins? Dr. Kethvar asked. Amy took a deep breath. As ready as I can be. Let me start by mapping the alien symbols to letters that my app can understand. She began by giving each unique symbol a letter from the English alphabet. The tower had 43 different symbols, but her app could only handle 26. LETTRs. Dr. Kethvar helped by combining similar symbols and using numbers for the extras. Computer, display the tower grid in the new format. Amy said. The main screen showed the alien crossword puzzle converted into letters and numbers that looked familiar to Amy. It was still confusing, but now her crossword app could analyze the patterns. Veltor was watching the process carefully. Lieutenant, how does your application solve puzzles? Amy opened the app settings on her tablet. It looks for common word patterns and letter combinations. It also has a database of thousands of words and their typical letter patterns. When I give it some letters from a word, it suggests what the whole word might be. She connected her tablet to the ship's computer system and loaded the converted alien puzzle into her app. The program immediately began analyzing the grid structure. Look at this, Amy said, pointing to her tablet screen. The app found several short words that are only 3 or 4 symbols long. In Earth crosswords, short words are usually simple concepts. Dr. Kethvar studied the screen. Can your application tell us what those words might mean? Amy shook her head. Not with alien symbols, but it can tell us which positions are most likely to be correct based on the crossing patterns. We need to figure out the meanings ourselves. Captain Lisa Grant had been watching from across the lab. She walked over to see their progress. How can you figure out meanings if you do not know the language? Dr. Kethvar answered her question. We start with universal concepts, things that any intelligent species would know. He turned to his computer and pulled up a database. Mathematical constants, physical laws, chemical elements. These should be the same everywhere in the universe. Amy looked at one of the short symbol groups that appeared near the center of the puzzle. This 3-symbol word crosses with 4 other words. In crossword puzzles, words in the center are usually important clues. Veltor ran the symbol combination through their scientific database. These symbols could represent the mathematical constant pi. The relationship between a circle's circumference and diameter. Amy felt excited. That makes sense. Pi would be the same for any species that understands geometry. She entered the guess into her crossword app immediately. Showed several suggestions for the crossing words. Amy read them out loud. Based on the pi answer, the app thinks this crossing word might represent orbit or circle or round. Dr. Kethvar checked his database again. The symbols for that crossing word match our records for planetary orbital mechanics. I think Lieutenant Collins is right. One by one, they began filling in the puzzle. Amy used her crossword app to find pattern matches, while the Zephyrian scientists identified scientific concepts that fit those patterns. It was slow work, but they were making real progress. Jake Murphy had been watching their work for an hour. This is amazing. You are actually solving it. Amy wiped sweat from her forehead. The mental effort was tiring, but she felt more excited than she had ever felt in her life. We have about 30% of the puzzle solved. But look at what we have found so far. She pointed to different sections of the puzzle on the main screen. This section talks about stellar navigation. This part describes atomic structure. And here they have mathematical formulas for faster-than-light travel. Lisa stared at the screen in amazement. They put their entire scientific knowledge into this crossword puzzle? Dr. Kethvar was equally impressed. Not just knowledge, Captain. Look at this section that Lieutenant Collins solved 20 minutes ago. It contains star charts showing the location of their home system. Amy continued working with renewed energy. Her crossword app was becoming more helpful as they filled in more answers. The pattern recognition software was learning the alien language structure and making better suggestions. Dr. Kethvar, look at this long word going down the right side of the puzzle, Amy said. My app thinks it is a greeting or welcome message based on its position and length. Dr. Kethvar analyzed the symbols carefully. Yes, I believe you are correct. This appears to be saying greetings to fellow travelers of the stars or something similar. Veltor had been working on a section in the upper left corner. I have decoded what appears to be their civilization's name and the date when they built this tower. According to this, they called themselves the architects and built this structure over 2 million years ago. Amy looked at her tablet. The crossword app showed that they had now solved 60% of the puzzle. The remaining sections were longer words that would require more complex scientific knowledge to decode. The hard part is done, Amy announced. We have enough crossing letters now that my app can suggest answers for most of the remaining words. Dr. Kethvar was studying a long horizontal word near the bottom of the puzzle. This section appears to contain coordinates and technical specifications. Perhaps instructions for how to contact them or visit their world. Lisa felt her heart racing. They were not just solving an ancient puzzle. They were potentially making first contact with a civilization that had been waiting for someone smart, enough to read their message for 2 million years. How much longer until you finish the whole puzzle? Lisa asked. Amy looked at her tablet screen, where the crossword app was processing thousands of possible combinations. Maybe 2 more hours for the basic solution. But understanding what all the words mean might take much longer. Jake was grinning widely. I still cannot believe you are solving this with a crossword game from Earth, Amy smiled back at him. Sometimes the most advanced problems need the simplest solutions. The aliens were smart enough to create a puzzle that tests intelligence without needing their specific technology or language. And humans were creative enough to invent games that train our brains to solve exactly this kind of puzzle. Dr. Kethvar nodded respectfully. Your species has abilities that we never recognized before, Lieutenant Collins. We focus so much on advancing our technology that we forgot the value of games and creative thinking. Amy returned to her work, feeling proud but also humble. In a few hours, they would know what message the ancient architects had been trying to share with the galaxy for millions of years. Amy Collins pressed the final button on her tablet. After 6 hours of intense work, the crossword puzzle was complete. Every symbol had been decoded, every word translated, and every message understood. The ancient tower had finally given up its secrets to a human with a crossword app. It is finished, Amy announced to the crowded science lab. Word had spread throughout the ship, and now almost the entire crew was watching. Dr. Kethvar looked at the completed puzzle on the main screen. His hands were shaking slightly from excitement. Lieutenant Collins, please read us the complete message. Amy cleared her throat and began reading from her tablet. Greetings to the star travelers who solve our puzzle. We are the architects, builders of worlds, and seekers of knowledge. If you can read these words, you have proven that your minds can blend logic with creativity, science with art. Captain Lisa Grant felt chills run down her spine. They were reading words written by aliens who died millions of years before humans even existed. Amy continued reading. We have watched many species grow and explore the galaxy. Most become very good at either logical thinking or creative thinking, but few master both skills. Those who solve our puzzle show they can use both paths to wisdom. Commander Jake Murphy leaned forward. What else does it say? Amy scrolled down on her tablet. The puzzle contains detailed star maps showing the location of 17 different worlds where the architects built cities. It also has instructions for building communication devices that can send signals across the entire galaxy. Dr. Kethvar was studying the technical sections of the message. These communication specifications are incredible. With this technology, we could talk to civilizations on the other side of the galaxy in real time. Veltor had been analyzing another section of the decoded message. There is more, Captain. The architects describe a network of ancient towers, like this one scattered throughout the galaxy. Each tower contains different pieces of their knowledge. Amy found that section and read it aloud. We have placed 100 towers in different star systems. Each tower tests a different aspect of intelligence. Species that solve multiple tower puzzles will find the location of our greatest treasure, a library containing all the knowledge we gathered in 10 million years of exploration. Lisa felt overwhelmed by the implications. A galactic library of ancient knowledge that could advance our civilization by thousands of years. Amy was still reading from the decoded message. But there's something else. The architects explained why they built these puzzles. They were not just leaving knowledge for other species to find. What do you mean? Jake asked as Amy looked up from her tablet with wonder in her eyes. They were looking for a specific type of species, ones that could combine different kinds of thinking. They believed that such species would be the key to solving a great danger that threatens the entire galaxy. Dr. Kethvar pulled up another section of the decoded message on his computer. Yes, here it says that every few million years something attacks civilizations across the galaxy. The architects call it the Dark Silence because it destroys worlds without leaving any trace. Amy continued reading the message. The architects fought the Dark Silence for thousands of years, but they could not defeat it using only logical thinking. They believed that species with both logic and creativity would find solutions they could not imagine. Lisa realized what this meant. So they built these towers as a test. They wanted to find species that could think in ways they could not. Exactly, Amy said. And according to this message, the Dark Silence is returning. The architects calculate. It will reach our part of the galaxy in approximately 200 years. The science lab became very quiet. Everyone was thinking about what Amy had just said. An ancient enemy that had defeated one of the most advanced civilizations in galactic history was coming their way. Jake broke the silence. What kind of solutions were the architects looking for? Amy found that section of the message. They do not give specific answers, but they say that creative thinking often finds solutions that pure logic cannot see. They mention examples like using simple tools to solve complex problems or finding new uses for old ideas. Dr. Kethvar looked at Amy with new respect. Like using a crossword puzzle application to decode an ancient alien message. Amy nodded. The architects specifically mentioned that the species they are looking for would be able to solve problems using unexpected methods. They wanted to find people who could look at a challenge from completely different angles. Lisa walked over to the communication station. Amy, does the message contain instructions for contacting other towers or civilizations? Amy checked her tablet. Yes, Captain. The tower is now broadcasting a new signal that identifies us as puzzle solvers. Other architect towers will recognize this signal and reveal themselves to us. We should also be able to communicate with any other species that has solved similar puzzles. Veltor was working at his computer station. Captain, I am detecting response signals from 3 other locations in our local galaxy region. It appears that other species have also solved architect puzzles. So humans are not the only ones who can think creatively. Dr. Kethvar was downloading all the technical information from the decoded message. This will take our scientists years to fully understand. But Lieutenant Collins has given us the most important discovery in galactic history. Amy felt both proud and humble. A few hours ago, she was just a communications officer who enjoyed doing crossword puzzles. Now she had helped decode a message that could save the galaxy from an ancient threat. "There is one more thing," Amy said, reading the final section of the message. "The architects left a personal note for whoever solved their first puzzle. She." Read the last lines aloud. "To the creative minds who opened our first door, you have shown that intelligence comes in many forms. Logic builds the foundation, but creativity builds the future. Together they can overcome any darkness. Welcome to the alliance of thinking beings." Lisa looked around the lab at her mixed crew of humans and Zephyrians working together. The architects had been right. Different types of thinking were stronger when they worked together. "Amy," Lisa said, "I want you to start working with Dr. Kethvar to analyze all the other towers. If there are 99 more puzzles to solve, we need to start solving them." Amy looked at her simple crossword app, then at the vast star map. "Showing the locations of other architect towers? Captain, I think we are going to need a bigger crossword puzzle." Everyone in the lab laughed. The ancient symbols had been cracked, the message decoded, and humanity had taken its first step toward joining a galactic alliance. All because someone recognized that even the most advanced problems sometimes needed the simplest solutions.